Today we'll be speaking with Nicholas Anderson, who is the author of NOC, British Secret Operations, and he will be discussing part of his book regarding the topic of MI6. Nicholas, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about MI6?
Yes, MI6 is basically a media name for the Secret Intelligence Service, otherwise known as the SIS, which is the equivalent of the United States CIA in the UK. The reason it came up with that name, as far as I understand from way back, is that it originally stood for Military Intelligence Department 6, and it kind of stuck. The SIS, however, was never officially disclosed that it existed until 1994, when it moved to its new building in Vauxhall Cross the same year. So when I joined the SIS, it was 1971, and a long time passed between 71 and 94 to not exist. I belong to the Directorate of Requirements and Production, which is the operational James Bond side of it, if you like. Within that directorate, there are R officers and P officers. The R stands for requirements, which are mostly the ones that are based in the office, while the P stands for production, who are the field operators, which I was. Back then, things have changed a lot since, but back then, a lot of the intelligence officers that were in the offices were former graduates of the universities of Oxford, Cambridge, Exeter, Durham, and London, while a lot of the field operators were cherry-picked from the armed forces, from which I belong to the Royal Navy Fleet Air Arm. Within that directorate, some of us graduate to a higher level, which is the NOC, non-official cover officers, who are the ones that actually live in another country, spying under an assumed name with false ID. The UK has approximately 12 NOCs, while the US has about 150. Please understand that everything that goes on at SIS MI6 is compartmented, meaning nobody knows what the people in the next room are doing and vice versa. Having 19 years experience under my belt, I've concluded this at the end of it all, and I had to write it down. In serving our masters and markets, we are prone to misrepresenting the circumstances to achieve the preset goals. I'll let listeners figure that out themselves. Over to you, Joseph.
Yeah, I actually happen to be curious as to why it is that the MI6 is a bit less secretive about their operations. Was there anything in particular that kind of precipitated the need for them to be disclosing a little more about their operations? I would imagine 10, 15 years ago, you couldn't even say some of the things that you're saying now.
No, but its policy then and now is that it will neither confirm nor deny anything. So you can come up with anything and they will never say one way or another. They'll just leave it there.
Right.
So that's one way of handling problems, if you like, from the media and the people and the government. But we are a government organization anyway, so.
Well, very true. And I would imagine that it's probably quite interesting for somebody like yourself to see, a lot of the James Bond movies or, the novels and that sort of thing, and kind of, be able to chuckle a little bit, about some of it that you see. What do you think that, obviously there may not be any movies that have your seal of approval on them yet, but is there anything in particular that sticks out in your mind as far as a fairly accurate or a very realistic portrayal of what your time in service was like?
Well, by way of an answer, I will say that there's one thing that movies and the media portray that completely throws people like myself, as you would say, a curveball, in that everybody is called an agent. And as far as intelligence officers are concerned, in both the UK and the US, is that an agent to us is somebody that's an outside person that we go to solicit information from. We ourselves are intel officers and we are insiders. So we call ourselves officers, and the outside people that we're gaining information from, hopefully, are called agents. But the contradiction is the media called everybody an agent. So it's confusing to me anyway.
What do you think that might be? Because I know that in the U.S., anybody who is, kind of a representative of the government is, as we just loosely kind of say it without, actually speaking from the knowledge or perspective of a federal, agency, that somebody from an agency is an agent. So that's, I think, kind of how maybe Westerners come up with that.
The little asterisk in the corner about the U.S. is that the FBI are the odd ones out.
Right.
Everybody is an agent or a special agent.
Exactly.
There.
Mm-hmm.
With the CIA, it reverts to what I was saying. They are intelligence officers.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's just a little bit of a joke that everybody's an agent in the movies and the media.
Well, that makes sense. That would be very odd, considering your perspective. And nobody else really knows that unless you're on the inside looking out, right?
Yeah, that's true, yeah. So a lot of our work out in the field, I would say that a lot of anti-logic to deal with, things that don't make sense in the beginning, but it's like a crossword puzzle or a puzzle to unpuzzle. You have to understand that a rumor is not true. You have to understand that some of the people you're talking to, the informants, underwent some experience firsthand, and then there's those that learned about it secondhand, and that actually has different understandings of the information imparted. Who was firsthand, who was hearing it secondhand, etc. I must say, looking back, and I was told by senior officers that I had some kind of inbuilt foresight. I think it's born from understanding anticipation in all its forms. That's all I have to say about that. Also, when you're out questioning people, no answer is actually an answer too. So, interesting life. I thought it was. I'm happy that I'm writing about my life story. I'm not making up anything. My story told me what to write, and it's as simple as that.
Right. Now, the book that you wrote, though, must be categorized as fiction, kind of regardless of the actual experience that you've had. Yes.
That's correct. It's by law, we're not allowed to say it happened, even though I'm saying it here on the air. I'm saying, well, it's fiction. I've fictionalized it, but it was based on a true story.
Mm-hmm. I hope you don't mind me asking you again, are there any particular, movies or books or anything that you have found particularly accurate or truly representative of the kind of work that you did in the MI6?
Certainly James Bond stuff. I've only ever actually seen one film of it, and I thought it was a comedy. I have seen Bourne. Bourne I found was quite good, actually, even though it's fictionalized too. I do find that I've been told anyway that a lot of my writing is quite close to a kind of younger John le Carre. John le Carre himself was a former MI6 officer, so there are similarities there. But generally speaking, no book or film comes to mind, actually, but I'm not a big book reader or a film goer anyway, so I'm not really a good barometer for that.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. Was there anything that you wanted to include in this conversation that I could ask the question?
Yes, I'll throw in that a lot of my work involved human stupidity, which is to blame for most of the problems. That I'll throw in. And truth is avoided by liars, obviously. That's about the two things I'd like to throw in.
Okay, so let me ask you this: as far as being successful, I mean, obviously you're still alive, so that says a great deal about your ability to do the work that you did. What do you think are probably the most important human factors or things about people that you learned in the process of doing your job?
That's what I call a double-edged question, that sort of thing. I'm not going to answer it.
Oh, okay. Oh. Is there a few interesting observations that you might have?
I would just suggest that people please, if you're interested in this subject matter, to read it, and I think you might enjoy it. At least
that's
read
true.
the reviews to see what people say.
That's true. Certainly people, we want people to read the book rather than kind of giving it all away, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, well, good. Is there anything else that's kind of interesting that you could impart on us to kind of tease us further into being interested in the book?
The only one, when you look at modern history now and everything that's going on in Libya and Syria, the big lesson that I've learned in 19 years in the SIS was, at least my lesson is, that you cannot call it democracy when you put a gun to their heads. That's it.
Very good. Okay, so unless there is anything further that you would like to add on, I'd like to point out to those who are listening that they can get more information about you and also about your book by going to nicholasanderson.info. And if anybody has any interest in finding out more about your career, you do have some of that information on your website. And of course, there's a great deal of information in the book, because that's part of the whole reason for your writing about it, is talking about your experience. Is there anything that you would like to add on to the conversation before we wrap things up?
There's quite a lot I'd like to add on, but I think we'll be talking for about another 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I think to find out more, please read the book.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you very, very much for your time today, Nicholas.